What's up, guys? Welcome to part 2 of my rewrite for Transformers Dark of the Moon. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, then you should probably go check that out before watching this video. The link is in the description below. But if for whatever reason you don't have time to watch it, here's a quick recap of what has happened so far. But if you don't need the recap, you can skip ahead to this time in the video. Paick has become an official Nest agent, and he now serves on a special team alongside Lennox, Epps, Donnelly, and Burt, codenamed Team Goldbug. Sparkplug has also been added as a member of Nest, working in the garage of Autobot City as a mechanic supervisor. Recently, Paick has started dating a robotics student from MIT named Carly Spencer, who is also an intern for Dr. Arkaville, a robotics professor and government advisor regarding Cybertronian matters. After gaining some useful intel, the Autobots realize that the Russian government has been secretly holding an unknown Autobot prisoner as a backup plan in case the Autobots ever rebelled against the humans. Infuriated at the humans' dishonor and treachery, Optimus Prime leads a raid to liberate their comrade, who turns out to be Optimus's old mentor, Sentinel Prime, whom the Autobots believe to have been originally killed in action during the war on Cybertron. Buried away with Sentinel Prime are pillars to a space bridge, a large-scale teleportation device that Sentinel was carrying with him when he was shot down. Meanwhile, Starscream has assumed command of the Decepticons and is preparing for their invasion of Earth, even though their leader Megatron is still in Nest captivity. Shockwave and his crew have joined Starscream's ranks, but the Decepticon officers have become disillusioned with Starscream's poor leadership. There is dissension amongst the ranks, as Shockwave disobeys Starscream's orders and tries to prevent the Autobots from retrieving Sentinel Prime. Shockwave is forced to retreat while the Autobots return their precious cargo back to base, eager to bring their former leader back online. We now move on to Act 2 of this rewrite, where the protagonists will be tested, the stakes are raised, and the bad guys start to close in. Okay, here we go. Act 2A. The Autobot raiding party pulls into the garage of Autobot City, where they will be met with reprimands by Director Fairborn, who berates Optimus for his irresponsible breach of protocol. Optimus will quickly silence Fairborn when he snaps back at her, and retorts that regardless of what customs the humans may practice on Earth, Optimus will never forsake one of his own people. As the saying on Earth goes, never leave a man behind. No government document could ever stop Optimus from fulfilling his duty as leader. Not to mention, the humans were in the wrong for deceiving the Autobots in the first place. Fairborn will profess that she has already made some phone calls and chewed some people out, since Nest was kept in the dark on this as well. Ironhide and Ratchet scoff at this, unwilling to believe in Nest's integrity. Fairborn explains that the reason Sentinel's imprisonment was such a well-kept secret was because anyone involved in salvaging the Ark and transporting Sentinel from the moon were quietly assassinated immediately after the mission by order of the Russian government. Any and all files and records of the events were deleted, and the only reason Victor Drath knew of Sentinel Prime was because his ancestors were responsible for assassinating the Russian astronauts. How amusing it is to find so many similarities between humans and Decepticons, Ironhide rudely tells Ratchet in front of Fairborn. We cut over to Wheeljack's laboratory, where Ratchet begins treating Sentinel's wounds that he's carried since his last battle. Evidently, the Russians couldn't comprehend Cybertronian technology enough to repair Sentinel's damage. Chip will be assisting Ratchet, kind of like an assistant surgeon or nurse, and he'll chat with the grumpy medic, timidly apologizing to Ratchet and offering him emotional support while they operate on Sentinel. The old Autobot growls that Chip could never understand what Ratchet is feeling. Look, I know I'm not as old as you guys, and I never will be, but from all of the stuff I've heard the others talk about, Sentinel was a legend. Everybody loved him and respected him. Kinda reminds me of one of our planet's greatest leaders. And which meatbag may that be? George Washington. He helped lead our ancestors in the war that won us our freedom. His honor and his integrity was the glue that kinda kept our country together when it was still young. He was a good man. He was our Sentinel Prime. And would he have approved of his allies deceiving him and stealing away one of his officers for ransom? No, he wouldn't. I'm sorry, Ratchet, but I hope you can understand that we're not all the same. Ratchet eventually sighs and admits that he doesn't blame Nest for Russia's actions. As upset as he is, Ratchet's not ignorant enough to blindly believe that all humans are liars. He also admits that the war has taken a very heavy toll on his spark, and that he's barely holding on to his faith by a hair. It's not right, and it's not fair, but Ratchet confesses that he has been taking a lot of his stress, grief, and anger out on the humans. This war has changed him, and Ratchet hates that. You know, Plato once said, "We are twice armed if we fight with faith." Don't lose faith, Ratchet. Things might look dark now, but it can't rain forever. The sun eventually has to come out. Ratchet nods with appreciation, then stops abruptly. Wait, isn't Play-Doh that sticky substance human children play with? We cut back to the Nemesis, where Starscream berates Shockwave publicly in front of the rest of the ship's crew for his insubordination, and threatens to have both Shockwave and his savage mongrel beast turned into scrap metal. Shockwave doesn't take too kindly to the threat, and he intimidatingly steps into Starscream's personal space, looking down at him gravely.
And who is going to lead the task? You? You are incapable of leading insects to what the humans call a picnic.
The tension in the room becomes so thick that you can cut it with a knife, as Starscream and Shockwave stare each other down. Everyone stops what they're doing to watch the face-off. Troopers! Starscream barks irritably, and a pair of Decepticon guards reluctantly come to his side, but they back away in fear when Shockwave glares at them. Starscream warns Shockwave to not test his patience, and strips Shockwave of his rank as captain, lowering his station to that of a mere private. He's no better than a nameless protoform now, a common drone. Starscream promises to execute Shockwave the next time he disobeys his command. Shockwave likewise makes a promise that if Starscream interferes with his work again, he will remind Starscream what true strength looks like, since Starscream has already forgotten what it is in Megatron's absence. Or maybe he never knew what true strength was to begin with. Shockwave leaves the bridge, and everyone steps out of his way nervously as Starscream impatiently snaps at the rest of the crew to hurry up and get back to work. We'll cut back to Chip, Ratchet, and Wheeljack beginning the process of reactivating Sentinel Prime from stasis, now that he's fully repaired, while the rest of the Autobots and Team Goldbug watch on with intrigue. Just like in the original version of the film, Sentinel will at first attack his fellow Autobots when he is brought back online, mistakenly believing that he is still in the middle of battle. I also want Sentinel to at first speak in the Cybertronian native language of Neo-Cybex as a cool world-building moment for this scene. Optimus will help soothe the confused Sentinel and bring him back to his senses, and once he does, all of the Autobots present, including Optimus, will drop down to one knee and bow before Sentinel. Their esteemed and legendary leader has returned. Optimus will help the old Prime adjust to his new surroundings by guiding him on how to download all of the languages of Earth so that Sentinel can communicate with Director Fairborn and answer some questions that she has for him. Just like in the original version, Sentinel will explain that his ship, the Ark, was carrying pillars of a space bridge so that Sentinel could establish an escape route for refugees trying to escape the Civil War on Cybertron. But the Ark was waylaid, and everyone aboard was killed except for Sentinel Prime, who managed to navigate the damaged ship towards Earth's moon before crash landing and going offline. Fairborn is concerned about this space bridge and how it could easily be misused to transport armies and weapons of mass destruction rather than refugees. Sentinel Prime reassures her that the device was built for peaceful intentions before Optimus offers to give Sentinel a tour of their new home. Much like in the original version, Optimus and Sentinel will go out for a drive in the countryside, where we will cut to the pair discussing the final days of the war on Cybertron while staring out into the sunset. Sentinel Prime becomes heartbroken when he learns that Optimus launched the Allspark off-world, dooming Cybertron to be a dead planet. He is even more devastated to learn that all Cybertronians have become fugitives, living on other planets and spreading their civil war to other worlds and involving innocent alien species. Sentinel asks how many Autobots has Optimus lost to the stars, and Optimus admits that many of their comrades that also fled Cybertron with them are still unaccounted for, either wandering through space or having found other unknown planets to settle or hide on. We see for a brief moment that Sentinel snaps at Optimus, unable to hold back his anger regarding the dooming of Cybertron. Ashamed, Optimus opens up his chest plate and drops down to one knee, offering the matrix of leadership back to his mentor, as he feels like he has done nothing but fail in upholding the legacy of the Primes. Sentinel will be moved by Optimus's humility, and he'll apologize for losing his temper with Optimus, and he insists that his apprentice keep the Matrix and remain chieftain of the Autobots. Sentinel will reassure Optimus by telling his former student that he does not judge him for his decisions that he has made as leader of the Autobots. Even though the loss of their homeworld has taken a severe toll on his spark, Sentinel knows Optimus did his best, and that's all he can ask for. Later that night, Nest and the Autobots will celebrate Sentinel's return by swimming in the Susquehanna River. The Autobots will be engaged in giant chicken fights in the water, causing massive splashes as their roughhousing drenches anybody nearby. Spike, Chip, Sparkplug, and the rest of Team Goldbug will play football in the dark in an homage to the volleyball scene from Top Gun. But, in the middle of the festivities, Sentinel's mood will change, and he'll leave the party in a depressed state. Bumblebee will ask Optimus what is wrong with Sentinel, to which Optimus replies that their old master needs time to mourn for Cybertron and adjust to his new surroundings. The best thing that they can do for him right now is give him space. Sentinel Prime will drive back into Autobot City and roam the quiet halls of the base, passing by the occasional Nest security guard. His melancholy seems to drain the very life from the building as he relives flashbacks of what life was like on Cybertron before the war, the party outside reminding him of the parties he and the other Primes used to host in Ioan City. He'll recall fond memories that he's experienced with every individual Autobot that is outside: Optimus, Bumblebee, Ironhide, Ratchet, Wheeljack, Mirage, and RC, back when everything made sense. We see a flashback of Cybertron at the end of the Golden Age, years after the end of the Prime War and the exile of the Fallen, where crowds of Cybertronians are gathered at the docks of Ioan to witness a grand event. Prima, leader of the 13 Primes, addresses the masses of Cybertron by announcing that 5 of his brethren, Solus Prime, Onyx Prime, Nexus Prime, Micronus Prime, and Alchemist Prime, have volunteered to embark on a voyage across the stars to search for alternative sources of fuel to sustain their planet in the face of this energy crisis, where Cybertron is starting to run low on energon. Prima passes the authority of the ceremony over to Sentinel, whom we can tell is regarded as the spiritual leader of the Primes, being portrayed as more of a fatherly rabbi. Sentinel holds in his hands a large holographic book known as the Covenant of Primus, and reads from it as a pastor would a sermon as he anoints the 5 departing Primes and calls upon Primus, the very soul of Cybertron itself, to bless their journey. Sentinel refers to all Cybertronians as children of Cybertron, and finishes his homily with the saying, "Till all are one," which the rest of the Cybertronian citizens repeat in a chant, similar to saying Amen, as the saying "Till all are one" echoes across the vast multitudes of civilians. With a nod from Sentinel serving as his cue, Optimus, who bears the emblem of the Elite Guard on his shoulders, commands the Elite Guard to stand at attention as the 5 Primes walk down the docks in a procession. The Guardsmen, who resemble the Knights Templar, draw their swords and create an arch for the Primes to walk under. All 12 of the remaining Primes will bid farewell to each other as the 5 Voyagers disembark aboard their ship. Upon Optimus's word, a group of Elite Guardsmen will transform into tanks and launch fireworks into the sky in celebration. We then cut to a montage of Sentinel celebrating with others, but Sentinel starts to also remember the Civil War of Cybertron and the atrocities committed by the traitor Megatron, before we cut back to the present. Sentinel comes upon Megatron's holding cell, diligently guarded by the Wreckers, and his demeanor switches from sorrow to grim vengeance. "You," he growls as he slowly enters the room and recognizes his old foe. Megatron will be genuinely surprised to see the old Prime, believing that he had perished long ago, just as everyone else did. After momentarily dismissing the Wreckers from their posts and interrogating Megatron in his cell privately, Sentinel learns about Megatron's contingency plan to resurrect Cybertron. When Sentinel begins grilling Megatron on the logistics of his contingency plan, Megatron will not hold anything back. He'll be completely honest with Sentinel about everything. "I understand using this planet's resources to restore Cybertron. But why enslave their humans? Why enlist insects to do a god's work?" Megatron will explain that despite being disgusting meatbags, the humans are a mechanically inclined species, and that could work well in Cybertron's favor. If it wasn't for the humans pathetically waging war on each other, their technology could have reached the same heights as Cybertron's by now. But, under a firm and guiding hand, the talents of the human species could be fostered and be put to good use in restoring Cybertron. Plus, even if the Autobots and Decepticons were to join forces, there still wouldn't be enough Cybertronians left to rebuild their homeworld. Too many of their people have died in this conflict. They're going to need a large workforce to make Cybertron's return a reality. Earth has 7.3 billion humans living on its surface. That's more than a substantial workforce. Sentinel refuses to answer Megatron's proposal as he orders the Wreckers to return to their posts, and he walks down the hallway, brooding to himself. We cut to the next day where Spike has taken a sick day to go to Arkeville Appliances and visit with Carly, who invited him to come see a new project she has been working on with Dr. Arkeville. This will replace the scene from the original film where Spike goes to visit Carly at work and becomes jealous of Dylan's close relationship with his girlfriend. Here, we can see Carly working in her element, as she gets passionately excited about her trial that she's performing under Dr. Arkeville's supervision. She has a military veteran come into the lab as her test subject, his amputated arm making him the perfect candidate for this trial. She attaches a prosthetic arm similar to Dr. Arkeville's to his nubbed elbow with a harness, and both she and the professor will laugh with joy as Carly's experiment becomes a success. The professor will explain to Spike that the latest model of prosthetics was designed by Carly, improving upon the previous prototype, and that this was her big breakthrough to prove that she truly has a future with the company. It is here that Dr. Arkeville will reveal to Spike the story of how he lost his arm in an accident and how he lived with his disability for years, until the arrival of the Cybertronians enabled him to conduct groundbreaking research in alien technology that not only cured his amputation, but it can also help thousands of others who are living with the same struggle. Who knows? Arkeville Appliances may even be able to sign a contract with the US military, which will help take human evolution to the next level. We cut over to Soundwave's office aboard the Nemesis, where Soundwave is plugged into multiple computers at once, and is joined by Shockwave. The Decepticon spy master will reveal to Shockwave that his human spy has just shared the location of the Autobots' headquarters, and the first phase of their plan has been put into motion. We cut back to Autobot City, where night has fallen over the base. Upon Sentinel's orders, a squad of Nest agents will relieve the Wreckers from their posts as Megatron's watchmen. Sentinel will invite the Wreckers into the garage for a toast for all of the hard victories that they have acquired over the years. At the same time, Laserbeak, outfitted with a signal jammer that will mask his presence, flies up to the Autobots' headquarters and sneaks in by crawling through a ventilation shaft. His signal jammer will interfere with Autobot City's security cameras, causing them to malfunction. Laserbeak will keep high to the ceiling and crawl along the rafters like a stealthy predator until he finds Megatron's cell. Laserbeak will drop down on top of the Nest agents guarding Megatron's cell, crushing their bodies under the weight of his metallic body, finishing off any survivors with his silencers. Laserbeak will then hack into the padlock of Megatron's cell, giving Soundwave full access to the base's mainframe and allowing him to lower the energon field that Megatron is contained in. Megatron will break loose and instantly begin slaughtering any Nest agents he comes into contact with. What comes next will serve as the midpoint for our rewrite. At the garage, the Wreckers will suddenly become distracted as the alarm within Autobot City is sounded. Much like he did with Ironhide in the original film, Sentinel will take the Wreckers by surprise and shoot them all in the back with his rust gun while their guards are down. Except this time, when Sentinel shoots his own kind in the back, we can tell that Sentinel immediately regrets it. He reveals that he has joined forces with Megatron, justifying his betrayal by promising the revival of Cybertron. With sorrow in his voice, Sentinel will apologize to the Autobots and tell them that they will never understand his perspective because they've become too disillusioned with Optimus's idealism. Heavy sacrifices must be made for the greater good, and in this instance, Sentinel is choosing to sacrifice Earth for Cybertron. It's not a decision he made lightly, and the consequences weigh heavy on his spark, but it's a necessary evil that must be committed if they are to ever get their home planet back. Sentinel will specifically apologize to the Wreckers for shooting them, telling them that he couldn't take the chance of risking their interference with his work.
Oh, sons of Cybertron, forgive me. You are some of the finest warriors I've ever had the pleasure to command. You have no idea idea how much this pains me, old friends. You deserved better deaths, but rest now, knowing that your sparks have been redeemed and will reside in eternal glory with the Allspark. I hereby discharge you from duty.
Sentinel will give one final shot for each wrecker, finishing off the rest of their rusting bodies. The only one that survived was Steeljaw, since the Cybertronian canine immediately fled once the wreckers were downed. We can tell that this action eats up Sentinel Prime's conscience. If robots could cry, Sentinel would definitely be shedding a few tears right now. Steeljaw returns with Team Goldbug and the rest of the Autobots at his back, but they're all too traumatized to even move. They're so frozen with disbelief at the sight before them that they can't process what just happened. Optimus will charge forward asking,
"Why, Sentinel, why? For Cybertron, for our home. Why is it, Optimus, that our greatest enemy understands the need to restore our homeworld better than you? You, a Prime! Megatron has inflicted unforgivable horrors in the name of conquest, but it was you who doomed not only our people, but our home to extinction. When you launched the Allspark into the stars, you betrayed us all."
Sentinel will shoot up at the roof of the garage, causing it to cave in and collapse on top of his adversaries. Optimus and the rest of the Autobots will then rush over and protect Team Goldbug by covering them with their huge metal bodies as they're all buried beneath piles of rubble. With them out of the way, Sentinel makes his way towards the vault. In the midst of the chaos, Victor Draft and the Geddes brothers will find an opportunity to free themselves when the controls to their cells are damaged, and they make good their escape. Meanwhile, Sentinel's interactions with Director Fairborn will remain the same way that they do in the original film, where he breaks into the vault to steal the pillars to the space bridge.
What's going on? What do you think you're doing?
I am a Prime. I do not take orders from you.
Except this time, Chip will attempt to stop Sentinel by scrambling over to a computer and initiating security measures, sealing blast doors, activating lasers, and summoning reinforcements. But between Sentinel, Megatron, and Laserbeak, they plow through all of Nest's defenses. The room will suddenly shake, and a large piece of debris will fall on top of Chip, trapping him. Sparkplug will rush into the room and pull Chip out from under the wreckage, where Chip will hyperventilate and frantically tell Sparkplug that he can't move his legs. Sparkplug will then throw Chip over his shoulder in a fireman's carry and do his best to run through the base, trying to find a safe place to take cover. But Laserbeak will suddenly fly by and fire down on Sparkplug's exposed back from behind, making him an easy target. Huge bullets will explode out of Sparkplug as he tumbles forward and drops Chip, who will do his best to crawl towards Sparkplug. Chip will lean in close and listen as Sparkplug whispers the Wigwitty motto, "No sacrifice, no victory." Meanwhile, Sentinel not only takes the pillars of the space bridge, he also takes the Allspark with him. Megatron and Laserbeak will rendezvous with Sentinel Prime outside Autobot City as the base goes up in flames, with Megatron holding onto his reclaimed arm that had been amputated in the final battle of the previous film. Victor Draft and the Geddes brothers will approach the Cybertronians, proposing an alliance as Draft professes that he is a man of influence amongst his species, and that a partnership with the Decepticons would be mutually beneficial for both of their parties. The Geddes brothers also point out that they want to put their engineering skills to good use by getting revenge on the Autobots and Nest via joining the Decepticon cause. Megatron simply nods in response. Together, Sentinel, the Decepticons, and the human prisoners will board a Decepticon shuttle that descends from the night sky and lands before them. Act 2B. This is the part in the story where the heroes will find themselves in their darkest hour as the bad guys begin to close in. Once Team Goldbug and the rest of the Autobots dig themselves out from beneath the rubble, Spike will become devastated to learn of his father's death, and we'll see him bawl his head off at his father's bedside, where Chip, who is also in a hospital bed, describes Sparkplug's final heroic moments to Spike. Ratchet tenderly kneels beside Chip's bed, and after scanning him, realizes that Chip is paralyzed from the waist down, and regretfully informs his friend that he'll never walk again. We cut over to the moon, where the Decepticon shuttle delivers Megatron, Sentinel Prime, and Laserbeak over to their flagship, the Nemesis. Drath and the Geddes brothers will ask where the spacesuits are for them, but Megatron doesn't reply. The humans begin to freak out as Megatron opens the hatch and exposes his fellow inmates to the deadly vacuum of space. Drath and the Geddes brothers panic as they attempt to seek refuge within the corners and crevices of the shuttle, but it's no use. Megatron will then declare that he has no use for incompetent collaborators, as he explains that the fact that Drath and the Geddes brothers were captured by human beings as insignificant as Team Goldbug discredits them as useless in the eyes of the Decepticons. Megatron will chuckle darkly as the humans suffocate and collapse dead, to which Sentinel responds with a disgusted scowl. Disgrace and deceit, true to the name Decepticon. A title I recall you bestowing upon us, and one that we now share. Sentinel frowns. Irony is often distasteful to those who are given no choice but to drink, Megatron adds with a hint of smugness. Megatron will then find Starscream ruling the Decepticons and living like a king in his absence. Megatron has finally had enough of his backstabbing sidekick. You left me to die on that pathetic insect planet, threatens Megatron. Only to continue with your master plan and awaken the army. After all, someone had to take command in your absence, stutters Starscream. After beating Starscream up and humiliating him in front of the rest of the Decepticons, Starscream tries to flee by transforming and flying away, but Megatron, who now has his severed arm reattached to his body, will shoot Starscream down before he gets the chance to go very far. As Megatron walks outside onto the moon's surface with the rest of his army at his back, the wounded Starscream will beg and grovel for his life. But his pleas fall on deaf ears. Soundwave and Shockwave will look down coldly at Starscream without any sign of remorse or compassion. Turning to face the rest of his audience, Megatron announces, "Let this be a lesson for all traitors." "No, please, what are you doing, Master?" shrieks Starscream. "Here's a hint," replies Megatron. He then executes Starscream and reclaims the fallen staff from Starscream's carcass, slinging it onto his back. Megatron will then turn to face his troops, and one by one, starting with Soundwave and Shockwave, they all fall down on one knee, honoring their glorious leader's return.
All hail Megatron!
Soundwave will cry out from his kneeling position, and the rest of the Decepticons will follow up with an echoing chorus as they repeat Soundwave's call.
All hail Megatron! All hail Megatron! All hail Megatron!
Back on Earth, military funerals will be held for all of the Nest personnel who perished during Megatron's jailbreak. Ironhide, who is clearly depressed, isolates himself from the rest of the Autobots, and he'll hold onto Leadfoot's chainsaw gun as a token to remember his comrade by, adding it to his arsenal of weapons. The piles of rust that are left over from the carcasses of the wreckers will be collected and placed in giant urns, which Ironhide will place at the cemetery where the rest of the deceased Autobots are buried. At the funeral, Optimus will lay a hand on Ironhide's shoulder to comfort him after delivering his eulogy for Sparkplug and the rest of the murdered Nest agents. Like Sentinel before him, Optimus will complete his eulogy by reciting the Cybertronian phrase, "Till all are one." Steeljaw will then attempt to gain Ironhide's attention, but when Ironhide ignores the creature in his grief, Steeljaw will resort to blindly following the commander wherever he goes, no longer having an owner to watch out for him. With Nest decommissioned and the passing of his father, Linux encourages Spike to take time off and to consider job hunting, since all of their futures are very uncertain now. Spike rushes to Archiville Appliances when Carly reveals over text that she is working late and can't answer the phone. The following scene will be the same as the original film, where Sam reunites with Carly only for Dylan to reveal his secret alliance with the Decepticons, except this time, Dylan will be swapped out for Dr. Archiville. When Spike tries to leave with Carly despite Dr. Archiville's insistence on both of them staying, Dr. Archiville will then surprise both of them when his cybernetic arm transforms and he fires highly advanced darts into the couple, tasing them and dropping them to the ground. When Spike tries to fight back by charging the professor, Archiville's arm will shift into a cannon that he'll aim point blank at Spike's face, stopping him in his tracks. Archiville will then explain that his previous story on how he acquired his robotic arm was actually an alibi that he's been using to keep his cover. The truth is that the arm was handcrafted and especially customized for him by Soundwave for the sole purpose of government espionage. He brags that the arm can transform itself to become a universal hacking tool that can break through any kind of human encryption. Arkeville has been a secret agent for the Decepticons since Soundwave approached him in the months between the Transformers 1 and 2 rewrites. His close ties with the government making him the perfect mole and saboteur. Arkeville's justification for betraying his own species is that he believes that the Cybertronians are the only superior beings in the universe who deserve to be worshipped. Arkeville will then implant the Decepticon wristwatch, known as the Watchbot, onto Paick, just like in the original film, taking Carly hostage as extra insurance so that Paick doesn't get any funny or heroic ideas. Much like in the original version, Soundwave will broadcast a message from Megatron to the entire planet of Earth, translating Megatron's words so that every country can understand, just like General Zod's broadcast in Man of Steel. Megatron announces that the Decepticons have come to claim Earth as their own in the name of restoring their homeworld of Cybertron. Megatron dictates that the leaders of Earth must exile the Autobots if Earth wishes to live in a future filled with peace and harmony beneath their new alien overlords. Hours later, Director Furborn will assemble everyone that is left from Nest and declare that the Alien Autobot Alliance Cooperation Act has officially been repealed by Earth's world leaders, and that the entire organization of Nest has been decommissioned. The war is over, and they lost. It's time to go home while there still is a home. Feeling responsible for Sentinel's betrayal, the death of Sparkplug, and the crippling of Chip, Optimus agrees to lead the Autobots into an exodus from Earth, as he feels like he has truly failed. Just like in the original film, Paick will share a heartfelt goodbye with Bumblebee and Optimus at the space station, confessing that he needs the Autobots and that he doesn't know what he's going to do without them. He can't live without them because he can never be as strong as they are. Paick needs the Autobots. But Bumblebee will encourage Paick to believe in himself, to which Optimus will add,
Remember this. You may lose your faith in us, but never in yourselves.
With that, the Autobots take off into space aboard the Exantium, only to be shot down by the Nemesis, just like in the original film, proving that the Decepticons never keep their word. Believing the Autobots to be dead, the Watchbot will detach itself from Paick and disappear as Chip, who was also present at the Autobots' departure, will roll up behind Paick in his wheelchair, and he'll say Simmons' line from the original film. Years from now, they're going to ask us, where were you when they took over the planet? The Decepticons will then invade Earth in the exact same way that they do in the original film, except instead of occupying Chicago, they're going to occupy Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. Sentinel will operate the space bridge and monitor the arrival of the Decepticon fleet from the moon, while Megatron bursts into the White House with Shockwave and the Driller. Megatron holds the entire presidential cabinet hostage, as well as Congress, assigning the Decepticon spy, Reflector, to watch over the president and his administration. Reflector will separate into 3 different versions of himself, almost like clones, to complete this task. Megatron will then triumphantly sit on the Lincoln Memorial, playing with Starscream's decapitated head, and he looks at it as a reference to Hamlet. We'll then play this scene from Transformers 5.
The end is near, my old treacherous friend.
Oh, she's coming!
What a shame you'll be unable to see it.
Once DC is under control, Soundwave and his entourage of assistants, including Rumble, Laserbeak, and Ratbat, will escort Dr. Arkeville to the Pentagon. From there, Dr. Arkeville will use his cybernetic arm to hack into the Pentagon's mainframe and bypass the security shutdown protocols for all of the reactors at the US nuclear power plants. All across the states, nuclear power plants explode simultaneously, shocking the world even more than before. It was one thing to take the White House hostage. It was another to completely decimate the country's greatest contingency plan and turn it against them. The US has been officially crippled. After making an example of America, the rest of the world's leaders submit in a state of fear and compliance, not wanting their countries to share the same fate as the US. But not all within the US military are scared. Many of them wish to strike back, but have been ordered by their commanding officers to stand down. Otherwise, they'll jeopardize the lives of the president and his administration. A team of bold Navy SEALs will go AWOL and secretly visit the war-torn Autobot city, requesting access to Nest's high-tech weapons so that they can stand a chance against the Decepticons. They know that standard RPGs and grenades aren't going to cut it. Spike will join the Navy SEALs in going AWOL and take the lead in the counterstrike, since he's known the Cybertronians the longest and has spent the most time with them up close. Spike's defiance will inspire the rest of Team Goldbug to go rogue as well, except for Lennox, who is too worried about what will happen to his wife and daughter if he is court-martialed for abandoning his post. These Navy SEALs will replace the original strike team led by Epps in the original version of Dark of the Moon. In addition to taking the standard issue anti-Decepticon weapons that Nest provides, Team Goldbug will also bring along the illegal black market guns confiscated from the Geddes brothers and share them with the Navy SEALs. Chip will then wheel himself over to Autobot City's control room to serve as mission control for the team. But when Director Fairborn barges in on Chip and catches him disobeying direct orders, there's a moment of tension where Chip is afraid that Fairborn will have him arrested, but instead, she joins in on the mission and begins helping Chip direct the strike team, covertly deploying Lennox and his reinforcements to DC. And that concludes part 2 of my rewrite for Transformers 3. If you guys want to know when the third and final part of this rewrite will be released, then go ahead and subscribe so that you can be the first to know when I drop a new video. Leave a comment down below and I will catch you guys next time. Till all are one.